I'm your host, Shan Modina. So happy to be with everyone this evening. You're listening to Radio Azad, where your voice matters. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Akbar Kazim, who is coming in as a health coach. You actually drove down from San Antonio. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight. You know, we just covered Nader Nanjiani. He's turning into his own health expert himself. He just created a page that everyone can start joining, the South Asian Health Facebook page, where if you are in your healthcare journey, you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, beyond, and you've been diagnosed or you are pre-diabetic, this is a great community that we can come together as a South Asian conglomerate and really have some accountability partners, blueprints that we can start looking at the excellence in healthcare and how to really improve our health and our quality of life moving forward. And a part of that, a big pillar in Nader's journey was you, Akbar. So thank you, Akbar, for being on the show tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. I can't wait to get into it. You know, one thing that started your journey, it was similar to what Nader was going through, which is, having an IT background, but really being curious about your own body, your genetics, the predisposition that we have as a community, and you'll go through these statistics, is incredible when it comes to, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's. A lot of this stuff starts with diabetes. It's almost like the gateway drug, right? And then we also have high blood pressure, which exacerbates cancers, helps metastasize them along with blood sugar. So there's these things that are, we know as comorbidities, right? Like one thing can lead to the next, kind of leads to the next, but the foundation of it is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and high blood sugar. So Akbar, why don't we talk about your journey in becoming a health coach? And then we'll talk through some of the statistics that we see within our community, our greater South Asian community.
Thank you. I think health coaching was sort of stumbled into it simply by seeing people around me as we're getting older, getting into our 30s, 40s, the inevitable decline that takes place, especially in the Desi community. And it starts with a medication. And you pointed it out beautifully, that you start with a medication for this just to basically tweak some biomarker, which is not covered, whether fasting glucose or the HbA1c or the blood pressure or something. You take something, the cholesterol is very...
like you take a statin, and then you feel like, weakness in your muscles.
Right.
And then you start getting
on another. Tremors, and then you do that. And then because of that,
and then you take another drug.
Nausea, and then you get anti-nausea for that. And it's just a downward spiral. And once you're set down that path, unfortunately, there's no breaking that spiral, and it just continues downwards.
Yeah.
And so if I started looking at this in a way, I was not satisfied. I was not happy with what was happening, and I did not want to go down that path myself.
Yeah, I mean, you're an engineer by trade, and you have a very analytical mindset, and so you're going to take that engineering approach, right?
Exactly. And I'm seeing people who are close to me within my family, who are physicians, yet they themselves are going down a certain path, which is inevitable.
Yes.
And I decided I really don't want to go down that path. So I started looking at it more and more on my own, and I sort of did very deep research into it, looking into it as much, tried to gather as much information as I could. There's a lot of information out there, Shan, I'll tell you, but there's a lot of misinformation also.
Right.
So it is really, really hard to untangle what is real and what is not real.
Yeah.
And you can always find studies to represent and support literally any point of view. Meat is bad, meat is good, veggies are bad, veggies are good, fruit, etc. You go into the different diets and habits and all, whether it's keto, paleo, the Mediterranean diet. There are proponents of every single of these diets, of these plans, and they are absolutely militant about it, that this is the absolute
This is it. Yeah.
However, the health continues to get worse and worse.
It's funny because I remember the Atkins diet, and then and then Dr. Atkins died of a heart attack, and it's like, look at all the cholesterol that he's eating.
Correct.
So it's really interesting.
You pointed out something very interesting that I'll come back to. Actually, the heart of some of the, especially for us Desis.
Yeah.
And with Desis, it's like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal. We have like a 1.8 billion people. So we have our own genetics, our own predispositions, and our own unique factors. But unfortunately, those have not been allowed for,
right?
Or they're not accommodated.
Accounted for.
Yeah. I'll give you one very simple example. 80 to 90% of us are deficient in vitamin D. You never even think about it.
Yes.
Because we think, oh, we get a lot of sun,
Yeah.
right? But the reason you and I don't sunburn easily is that we have the pigmentation, but it also doesn't allow the vitamin D to absorb as well.
Absolutely. And beyond that, I think that there's a cultural aspect to this, right? Because, you know, we don't like when we get too dark, right? So we say, hey, stay away from the sun. Kala ho gaya. Yeah, and then we have kala kola face cream, right? Or Fair and Lovely. Yeah, that we put on. And you know, beyond that, then what happens is we have these IT jobs and we work our behinds off, and we're sitting in front of a desk. We're not even going outside for any meetings. We're sitting inside of a building from sun up to sundown.
Correct.
And so, of course, our vitamin D is going to be deficient.
Absolutely. And I'll give you an example. The US RDA for vitamin D is 400 IUs a day, which is woefully inadequate. If you and I were taking 400, we would become critically low within months, especially in the winter months. Most of the people I know, the ones that I talk to, are at least 3,000, more like 5,000 a day.
Yeah.
And that starts getting the vitamin D levels up to a healthy level. They even found out during COVID that having a very low vitamin D compounded the effects that were taking place. So vitamin D is, I think, out of 350 chemical reactions that are taking place in the body, vitamin D is involved in about 300 of them.
Yeah.
So it's an absolutely critical substance.
Very critical also to the functioning of calcium. Calcium channels are what move every single muscle in your body. Vitamin D also helps with that.
Absolutely.
You know, also cancer. You know, it's a very powerful antioxidant. ADEK, right, is what I think, right? Fat soluble vitamins.
Correct. So that, and in our case, you know, some of the facts that I was pretty shocked to learn. We as Desis are 400%, 4 times more likely to get diabetes than the average European or average American. Right?
Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of factors to that. One is genetic. It is genetic. It is also lifestyle.
Very much.
I'll come to that. We do become sedentary more and more as we get past our 30s.
Yes.
Also, our diet is every single meal is carbs.
Yes.
So I'm not going to sit here and say carbs is the enemy or the demon, which in a way sometimes they are. Yeah. But every single meal of ours relies around carbs.
Right.
Now, you and Nader spoke very appropriately about giving off sugar.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What do you think is the average per capita consumption of sugar in the US?
Oh, per person per day?
Per year.
Per year. Oh my gosh. Several pounds.
152 pounds.
152 pounds?
Per person per year. Because it's hidden in everything.
Yes,
it's hidden in your sauces. It's hidden in your barbecue sauce, Italian dressing, every single thing, your bread even.
Well, this is such an important point, right, Akbar? Because what happened was in the 70s, we started demonizing fat.
Correct.
And we started seeing an uptick of heart disease.
Correct.
And so we said, you know what, forget fat, replace it with sugar. And now sugar is in every single product. And it's really the backbone of processed food.
Yeah.
Right?
Because when you take fat out of food, it tastes like cardboard.
Exactly.
It's got the flavor.
Yes.
So how do you get consumers to eat
sugar.
it? You add the sugar.
Yep.
So 152 pounds per person per annum is a consumption.
It's incredible. And that's just the average.
That's the average.
I mean, think about the people that are really going into it, right?
So who are actually drinking
several. Yeah. You know, it was funny. Warren Buffett said that his first job was selling Coca-Cola products. And every day he would have 12 Cokes a day. Yeah. And then he got down to 5, and now he has 1 to 3 Cokes a day. Coca-Cola. I mean, to imagine how much sugar the average American is going through, and our community owns all these Desi grocery stores, convenience stores and gas stations, and the amount of sugar that they're pushing through their convenience stores is astronomical, and we see it every day.
Let me give you another very interesting piece of fact. You mentioned it again. I was very impressed with you mentioning that, and I made a note to come back to it. You mentioned the glycemic index.
Yes.
And you mentioned that, right? One piece of toast.
Yeah, I also talked about it. Yeah.
One piece of toast.
Yes.
Whether it's white or whether it's brown, unfortunately, is higher on the glycemic index than a bar of Snickers.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So
it's so important to understand not only sugar, but how your body metabolizes the sugar, because there's slow burning and fast burning.
That's right. Exactly.
So let's talk about that.
Exactly. So and that is one of the genetic things and the cultural things that we have. We say, "Maine chini chhod di." Maine meetha chhod diya. In fact, Nadir is a prime example. He did leave the sugar, he did leave the thing, and I was sitting over there, but he still was having his naan and his bread and all.
Right.
And he didn't realize that till he actually put the CGM on and then started to see this massive spike. And he goes like, oh, wow, right? So that is happening. And we cannot have a breakfast or a meal without having either our biryani with it, and or having
or like our puri with our nihari in the morning.
So every single thing is that heavy carbs.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying don't eat it, but just be aware of what you're doing to yourself.
Right.
And just like when you guys were talking about that, when you give up sugar, you don't actually, you don't even feel the need for it after a period of time.
Yeah, some while.
When you give up, like not eating a lot of the naan and breads and stuff. For me now, for example, I've been off it for years.
Yeah.
I will do it consciously, and I know I will suffer.
Yeah.
Because it gets me bloated and makes me feel uneasy and stuff. But I'll do it at certain times. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go all in, Roti bhi khaunga, phir I'll have the meat also and all of that, and then I'll suffer for it. Right. And then, of course, a quick way to solve that problem is to then just do a long fast.
Right. Exactly. Hamare aadat like bache log ka jaise hai, right? Like the idea is whenever you take a toy away from a child, right? Yeah. They start crying and they scream, and your body does the same thing when you take the toy away, which is sugar.
Right.
But eventually, either, bacha so jata hai, or like, he gets distracted or something else comes about. Right. And I think we need to think about it the same way, is take away the toy for a little bit, allow your body to cry and readjust, and it's going to be just fine. Right. And it's this addictive response that we have, in association with things like sugar and dieting. But I think it's important, as we all go through, as we're getting older in our lives, and we start thinking about our lives in more of a spiritual way, in a spiritual journey, that we should show self-love and watching over our minds, our bodies, our health, for not only ourselves, but our family, for our community. That's such an important aspect of quality of life for everyone.
I think the key to use over here, you mentioned longevity and stuff, is also, lifespan we don't really have a control over, especially if you have faith, or lifespan is something which is written, as far as I believe. You can certainly control your health span.
Right. Absolutely.
So whatever years you have, you can certainly control the quality of those years.
Yes.
And that is what we should be focusing on.
I agree.
And that is important. One of the things that you had mentioned about the sugar, it comes back to insulin resistance. When you get to insulin resistance, you start building up, and it starts leading into a whole host of problems, including, it starts with metabolic syndrome, which is a whole host of different things. And you can see that by weight gaining around the middle, higher markers of inflammation, and then all of your markers start going up and up and up. So insulin, your insulin resistance is built up over time. We as Desis abuse our body 3-4 times a day, because even our chai is samosa and then something or the other, right?
Which is really funny, because we're about to go have samosa and chai after this.
Perfect. I love it. Let's do it.
So it's not like we're completely
conscious choice from
you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we know that it's coming. It's funny because I want to talk a little bit about insulin resistance, because you pointed this out beautifully. Is once you start seeing belly fat, which a lot of our South Asian community, this is genetically where typically we just carry a lot of our fat. Our pancreas, which is right next to our stomach, which is producing insulin, no matter how much insulin it produces, your body has so much sugar in it that it cannot be absorbed by the cells that are all around your body. And that is what causes insulin resistance. No matter how much insulin your body is releasing to the cell, there's not enough output, which means you're not doing enough activity for your body to use the sugar that's in the system in the first place. And that's where you start, having a lot of urination, like frequent urination. And the thing that's filtering that out is your kidneys. So now you start getting kidney damage. So insulin resistance leads to kidney damage, leads to poor circulation, which leads to amputation,
diabetes, and then cardiovascular disease, and now Alzheimer's increasingly is now starting to be called type 3
diabetes. Exactly. Absolutely. And if you think about this, every one of our parents, all people who are getting older are forgetting all the small things, right? When you think about dementia, it starts with being able to keep your long-term memories, a very difficult time having day-to-day tasks and short-term memories. You can't do that. And it's because there's all this sugar in your body. Your brain uses sugar, right? So it's not that you can't have sugar, but you just have so much sugar in your body that's uncontrolled that your body can't metabolize it, which is why
the example that I use is, hamara ghar hai ye. माँ है, which is our insulin, और 5-6 बच्चे हैं, और वो बच्चे are your carbs, all of your naan and roti and puri and all, and they come and they keep throwing stuff around, right? तो माँ उठा के उन्हें अलमारी में रखती रहती है. But as the kids keep on doing that, वो अलमारियां भर जाती हैं.
Right.
But they're still throwing it 4, 5, 6 times a day. They're still throwing that stuff. वो अलमारियां जब भर जाएंगी, it's going to start falling out.
Exactly.
Now there's no place to put it. So this is what we're doing over years and years and years. 4, 5, 6 times a day, we're throwing this junk into our body, right? And then the insulin goes in. Insulin is one of the most powerful hormones that's around there.
Yes.
It's at the same level as your testosterone, say adrenaline, cortisol. These are very, very powerful hormones. Yeah. So your insulin will go in and will pick up the garbage, the sugar, and will store it in the cells. Yeah. Ultimately, वो अलमारियां भर जाती हैं. Now it can't put that anyway. Yeah. So now the level of your sugar starts going up because there's no place to put it. And that's what insulin resistance actually is.
Right.
And that high level of insulin in your bloodstream continuously leads to all of the problems that you have mentioned. It's just a cascade.
It's a cascading event. And the thing is that we don't realize the output, because we just think, oh, maybe, high blood pressure. Okay. Kam ho jayega, these are gateway events that are happening that will lead to the most common causes of death, which is cancer. It's not just diabetes. We're talking about amputation. We're talking about heart disease, things that can really
unpleasant outcomes.
And it's slow killers that reduce your quality of life for a long period of time. And then we become burdens on our family. And I don't know if that's the right path that we want to take on, just because we have to give up some sugar here and there.
Let me give some bright light and hope to the listeners, because this all sounds very negative and morbid and all. As per the CDC study that was done, and it's called the diabetes prevention, people who are at high risk of type 2 diabetes, which is all of us are, and other people, if they undertake the lifestyle changes that are recommended, and Nadir mentioned some of them, 150 minutes per week, reducing your processed carbs, eating more natural whole foods and all, the delay and the improvement is up to 70%.
Yes.
So 70%, either you will not progress to type 2 diabetes, or you can delay it by another 10 years, and then maybe you become more aggressive in those 10 years with the measures you take.
Yeah.
But that gives me a lot of hope. That is not inevitable.
Yeah, it's interesting because we are constantly shedding. Right? Our cells are constantly reproducing and shedding, and you can regenerate organs, your liver can recover, and there's so much that you can do in such a short period of time. One thing that has worked well for me, and I would love to get your opinion on this, is intermittent fasting. And if you can't do it every day, it's fine. This is the month of Ramadan, and, we're fasting. We should be able to continue this throughout the year.
Yes.
And if we can't, fast 2 days a week. And in that time, what I do is on my phone, I just start a timer for 18 hours and I do not eat for 18 hours.
Right.
And then I open a 6-hour window where I can eat. And once I'm done with my last meal, I start another 18-hour timer.
Right.
And if I could do it for consecutive days, after my third day, I feel amazing. I feel so good because I've given my body a break to metabolize, to catch up to all the food that I've been making it process.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been able to catch its break.
Correct.
And so to intermittent fast is the thing that allows your hormones to rebalance, to allow your metabolic processes to get back to normalization, and your body recovery, because we are evolved species, recovers so fast once we give it a little bit of time to do so.
Absolutely. But that giving time for your body to digest, to sort of take a break, where you're not spending so much energy just digesting the food, is critical, because then that energy goes into rebuilding and repairing.
Exactly.
And your body can do that. The body is an unbelievable, incredible
instrument.
Just a creation, of course.
Yes, of course.
And it's interesting you mentioned 2 days a week. It can be intermittent fasting. You could do intermittent fasting 16 to 18 hours a day.
Yes.
Since it's a month of Ramadan, you can do Mondays and Thursdays, which is a Sunnah fast.
Yes.
So you can do a 2-day fast from that point of view.
Yep.
Which modern the fasting protocols call it the 5-2 protocol and all. We've had the 5-2 protocol for 1400 years.
Yes.
So as long as we follow some of those. So we have the tools already. It's just a matter of sifting through all of the misinformation and some of the excess and trying to see what really works.
Yeah. So important to take our fast beyond Ramadan, and also fasting is not just your body, it's your mind.
Right.
And it's thinking, more positive thoughts and allowing those de-stressors to also impact the physiological state that you're in.
Very right. Very right. One other thing that Nadir had mentioned on, apart from the 150 minutes, is resistance training.
Yes.
And resistance training is absolutely critical. I try and get my mother to do it also. I try to get everybody to do it. Everybody should be doing resistance training because it is the equivalent of the fountain of youth, to be honest. And two things happen in women. They have a higher predisposition towards osteoporosis.
Yes.
But if they do load-bearing, weight-bearing exercises, that can reverse it and control it. And in men, there is some of that, but there is also something called sarcopenia, which is when men start getting, their shoulders drooping forward and all.
Yes.
That's sarcopenia.
Okay, I probably have that now.
So if men are doing it, it avoids that. But it is, it actually rebuilds muscles. It rebuilds, it strengthens you.
Yes.
So it is something, resistance training, I cannot stress enough the need for resistance training.
You know what's really interesting is I saw a study that indicated longevity. And the leading indication of that was not diet, exercise. It was in a certain way. It was your social connections and how deep your social connections were. And then the second was one particular muscle, which is your thigh muscles. Mm-hmm. Your hips and your thighs, once you have a fall at a certain age and you break your hip, you end up becoming reclusive because you're going through a recovery. You become less mobile. And then you are not able to implicate yourself back into society the way that you were previously.
That's a very scary statistic. 60% of women over the age of 65 who fall will never walk again.
Yes.
60%.
Yes. And it's because they have weak hips.
Correct.
And so what's your hips don't lie, ladies. So and with men as well. And so it's so important for us with the discussion around resistance training to do weight-bearing exercises to strengthen the hips, because once your hips are gone, like you said, Akbar, your quality of life will change overnight and it will not recover.
That's right.
A knee replacement is common. It's fine. It happens. So many of our community members who've owned gas stations for years have stood behind that, cash registers for hours and hours, week after week, year after year. And so to get those replaced is fine. But once your hips go because of a fall, man, that recovery that's almost a death sentence. And it's very, very difficult to do that. So learning exercises, very simple squats. You don't have to go all the way down to the floor, but just to do some rigorous exercise that engages your thigh muscles and your hip muscles and your glutes is extremely important to the quality of life for the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'll just say sort of one thing that we were talking. Healthcare system and the healthcare over here, doctors and all are unbelievable at what they do. But remember that their goal is the absence of sickness.
Yes.
So if you look at it in a continuum, you have sickness on the one hand and you have wellness on the other extreme right. They will try and take you up to the 0 point level, which is the absence of sickness or the symptoms, right?
Yes.
What we want to do is to have those absences, but go much further
into
beyond
wellness.
To the right into wellness,
yeah,
right?
Brilliant.
Where you're actually feeling good,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure most people are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, right?
I say this all the time, and our healthcare system is not a healthcare system, it's a sick care system.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we're just dealing with illnesses and also things that reverberate out of an illness.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So,
yeah.
And
for a doctor, as long as he can keep you alive, he doesn't care about the quality of life, right? He's successful, and kudos to them. They do a brilliant job at that.
Yeah. I mean, managing a disease is great, right? Let's get you disease-free and into wellness where you're actually thriving.
Correct.
That is a very different set of objectives.
Right. Exactly.
And that you will get through community. That you will not get through a healthcare provider. That's not their job, right? And so we really have to think about that.
This is one of the intent, Nadir and I were talking, we want to make a lot of this information available to the people, especially the Desis, because we just find anybody after the age of 30, once they start working in the desk job, like you pointed out, and they're not out there and all, the decline starts.
Yes.
And so we want to put some information out there. They don't need to, if they try and do it on their own, they can. But as I said, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of misinformation. We've sort of tried and tested through sort of personal failures and successes, where we've come to a stage where we think we have an idea of what should work for Desis.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I want to welcome you guys back to the show. Hopefully next time, we'll do it on Zoom so that everyone could be seen at the same time. But, I'm wishing you guys all the success in the world. For anyone that is interested, check out South Asian Health Facebook page. Nader and Akbar are both running it together. I hope, to join you guys on a hike one day when we all, yeah, we go on this hike together and offer it to the community and, really strong people who have, some level of skill initially, and then, we can, democratize it to so many others. But
no skill needed, just bring a good attitude.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. Well, Akbar Kazim, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
So
and
really enjoyed this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah. No, this is wonderful. I can't wait to have you guys back, guys. That was Nader Nanjiani and Akbar Kazim talking about the importance of healthcare and how it impacts our quality of life. To be able to take your blood sugar, your diagnostics, your healthcare decisions into your own hands, to really improve the quality of your life, and also to help your family, the community, and everyone else around you. It's so important to do these things and to consider these things. We're going to take a quick break.